Am I the a-hole for Venmo requesting my sister-in-law for the hours I had to miss at work? My 35 female husband passed away a few years ago in an accident, so now it's just me and my 7-year-old son. My husband was the main breadwinner, so it has been rough. So now I work until 8 and he gets out of school at 3. My sister-in-law doesn't work as her husband owns a very successful business, and she helps out. Sister-in-law picks my son up from school and brings him to her house to hang out / do homework until I can pick him up. But on Wednesday, she called me while I was already at work to tell me her and her husband got last-minute concert tickets, so she wouldn't be able to pick him up from school. I was angry. It would be one thing if I knew in advance and could make other arrangements, but she just sprung it on me. I asked her to reconsider, reminded her that she made this commitment, and it would be really awful to break it. But she still wanted a concert, and I have to leave work 6 hours early and lost out on all those hours. I figured since she put me in this spot, she should have to recoup me as my income's the only thing me and my son survive on. So, I sent her a Venmo request for the amount I lost out on, and I got a nasty text from her a few minutes later about how she is not paying it. I had to send my son home with one of his friends yesterday and today because she won't pick him up anymore. I told some of my friends and they are 50-50 on if I should have done it. But I need that income, and she made a commitment to me and my son. I think that is more important than going to a concert to get drunk. Now for the top comments. This is amazingly stupid. Your sister-in-law is babysitting for free, and you want to charge her money when she cannot babysit for free? You're the a-hole. Your sister-in-law is not your personal slave. Your kid is your problem. But you sure seem to have dumped so many parental responsibility on your sister-in-law that you somehow think now that she is a parent and she owes you money to take care for your own kid? That's not how it works. She helps out. Sister-in-law picks my son up from school and brings him to her house to hang out / do homework until I can pick him up. Agreed. While the sister-in-law's ditching last minute was crappy, Opie is an ungrateful fool. Now she needs to find money for the formerly free childcare and transportation that she took for granted and felt entitled to. Assuming this is a 5 days a week, sister-in-law is volunteering 30 hours a week of her time to childcare, and Opie's referring to it as helping out. Sure, it sucks that she canceled last minute, but Opie shot herself in the foot here, because now she's going to need to pay someone for those 30 hours of childcare. You're the a-hole. You need to take responsibility for your own child. You should have found another sitter. You can't expect your sister-in-law to always be there to help you out. I've been an aunt for more than half my life, and I feel lucky that my siblings always made their kids available to me to love and train and support. It's been a huge part of my life. But demand I give up my life because they have kids was never their inclination, let alone their right to assume. Opie doesn't seem to understand that her needs and her sister-in-law's priorities will sometimes differ. It comes across as super entitled. I mean, you're giving a fine to someone for not giving free labor? I wonder if the sister sprung it on her last minute. Because when she tries to plan things, she gets the bleeding heart stories from Opie to guilt her into babysitting when she doesn't want to. It sucks to live in a world where many parents do rely on family help, because wages are almost cancelled out by childcare if you have a minimum wage or similar job. I don't know that that's the case here. I'm just assuming. But even if she is struggling, which I really do empathize with, that's a societal issue, not a sister issue, and her sister is already doing too much. Next story. Am I the a-hole for treating my stepson like an adult? So, I, 25 female, have a stepson Riley, 8 male. My husband Harry, 29 male, has full custody, and his job has sent him away for a whole month. So I'm taking care of Riley. Now, I will admit I don't know much about children. I'm the youngest person on both sides of my family, and growing up, I spent most of my time in hospital or getting bullied by my cousins. So I generally have no clue about what kids get up to. Obviously, I know the basics, like homework, playdates, etc., but I never really paid much attention to what Riley did every single day when he had nothing scheduled because my husband took care of them. I asked my husband about how I was supposed to entertain Riley, and he said that I should just let him do his own thing until he says he's bored. But that didn't feel right to me. Like I should bring him home from school and just let him sit in his room with his iPad? That does not sound healthy. So, I decided that I should teach him things like baking, card games, board games, etc. And so far, he's learned how to make cupcakes with minimal support, and he's learned how to play chess, checkers, and 5 card games. I've also taught him things like how to lay a table and table etiquette, a few silly little magic tricks, and how to do a really crappy British accent to annoy my British father. I made sure he stayed on top of his homework and social obligations too. Then he spent last weekend with my in-laws, and when I picked him up, mother-in-law was very annoyed at me. Apparently, he kept asking her to let him bake all weekend, and he refused to do anything besides card games with father-in-law all weekend too. She said that I wasn't letting him be a child and entertain himself because I felt inadequate as a step-parent, which I guess is true. Then she complained to my husband, and she's been pestering him to let Riley stay with them until he's back. He's also annoyed at me because he told me to let Riley get up to his own thing, and instead I overthought it, and they said I was treating him like an adult and was stealing his childhood. My parents also said that it was weird of me to be so worried about Riley keeping himself busy, and this all could have been avoided if I chilled out. So am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It's deeply concerning to me that your in-laws see avoidance and neglect as a better parenting style than being engaging and actually teaching him things. No kidding. The kid's not a plant you need to just water occasionally. Sounds like you were being a great stepmom. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she made some everlasting core memories with this child. He'll be so excited to bake with his stepmom all the time. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Are they seriously mad that you engaged with a child, taught him life skills in a way that he enjoyed so much he asked to do it again, and enjoyed playing card games? They're angry you're so much better than they are. It's not good for kids to spend all their time on screens. Interactive playing games and baking are great activities for a kid and are in no way forcing adult responsibility on a kid. You and kiddo are the only two who aren't a-holes. Not gonna lie, the only parents I ever met who disliked engaging with their kids like this were drunks, tweakers, or dating those types and taking out all their relationship frustrations on the kids for being in the way. Not claiming the families like this, but it really isn't a healthy way to go. And you kids on the other end of the spectrum, parents too busy with their high-earning jobs to pay any attention. One girl in high school told me that her parents had never once sat down and played with her entire childhood. She didn't know it was a thing parents did. They were practically strangers to her. Not the a-hole. Your husband left you to parent his child solo for a month? And he's the one who has full custody? It sounds like you have risen to the occasion and are doing just fine. If I could make any suggestions, maybe take Riley to the library and have him pick out an armload of books, or however many the library allows, in order to keep himself busy. And for those times no one is available to play card games or supervise baking. Your mother-in-law sounds jealous that Riley is obviously enjoying his time with you. Don't worry about her opinions. Next story. Am I the a-hole for saying my in-laws have no right to judge me for not adopting my stepchildren because they have no idea what it's like to be a step-parent? I, 35 female, have been married to my husband Michael, 38 male, for 5 years now. I am the stepmother of his 2 boys from his first marriage, Lee, 14 male, and Kai, 8 male. Their mother passed away 7 years ago. Kai calls me mom, and has since he was 4, while Lee calls me by my first name. Kai has wanted me to adopt him for some time now, and it was something discussed. And the reason it has not happened is Lee does not want me to adopt him, and my husband did not feel comfortable with me adopting only Kai. He's worried about it coming between the boys, about Lee maybe feeling left out eventually, but I think the main reason is he worries about the judgment of others, and the fact the comments could get to both of the boys. I love both Lee and Kai, but my relationship with each of them is different. Kai is my son, and we have a mother-son relationship. Lee is my stepson, who I love, but he doesn't always like that I'm here. Sometimes he gets annoyed that I'm here instead of his mom. Sometimes he treats me okay, but he has never been okay with me feeling too much of his mom's role in his life, so our relationship is a delicate balancing act. The boys have been in therapy. We also did therapy together as a family. My husband asked the therapist for their opinion on the adoption, and she said we made the right decision that when the boys get older, like once the boys are around 10 and 16 respectively, and their feelings have not changed, then adopting just Kai could be okay. But to make sure, Lee is spoken to again and given the option to express if it changed his mind. This has been challenging because so many people have opinions. I hate seeing Kai sad, but I don't want to force anything on Lee either, or risk him feeling a certain way if we make the wrong decision. My in-laws mentioned I should adopt the boys about a month into the marriage. At the time, my husband told them we didn't need to rush anything, but now they are aware of what is going on, and they told me it's shameful that I have not adopted the boys and become their legal mother. They said Lee is depriving both himself and his brother the legal protection of being their mother, and that I am showing clear favoritism by making it obvious that I want to adopt Kai but not Lee. I asked them how I make that obvious, and they ignored my question. They just told me I should have jumped at a chance to be their mother, that it was monstrous to consider making one of them mine and discarding the other like yesterday's garbage. That angered me because I have always done my best, so I ended up saying that they had no right to judge me for not adopting the boys because they have no idea what it's like to be a step-parent, and especially to stepchildren who have lost their biological parent to death. And they have no idea what it's like when both kids want different relationships with you. They just told me you don't have to be a step-parent to know someone is wrong in how they step-parent. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and well done as a step-parent. You came into the boys' lives at very different points in time, and you're respecting their individual wishes. It would be worse for you to adopt Lee when that isn't what he wants. And to be honest, it can be an option that is always on the table, even when he becomes a legal adult. Added to that, the opinion of your in-laws means nothing, and you should cease to trouble yourself about them. Your husband needs to intervene and tell your in-laws to stop bugging you. They are way out of line. The only people with opinions that matter here are you, your husband, and the two boys. The therapist seems sensible. Listen to the professional and ignore your in-laws. They're full of it. You're trying to do the right thing for everyone, so not the a-hole. Reddit is full of stories about step-parents adopting kids when the kids weren't ready for it, or outright didn't want to be adopted. Forcing a relationship in these situations never works. These kids will appreciate you actually considering what is best for them and asking them what they want. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but do speak with an attorney about living wills and advance directives. If anything were to happen to your stepkids, at least there is documentation in place for you to make medical decisions on their behalf. If not, your in-laws can make a bad situation worse. I would also see about some kind of legal guardianship for now, meaning that you can do medical appointments, etc., as well as some kind of security about shared custody in event of a split, especially the youngest. Need to discuss the legal guardianship with oldest, so he understands that is not adoption, but provides another adult to be legally responsible, so you can sign school paperwork, doctor stuff, vacation stuff, etc., and provides a safety net should anything happen to the dad. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for taking my brother-in-law to small claims court over art supplies? A bit of context. I, 29 male, like to draw and try other mediums as well. As such, I've accumulated a lot of art supplies over the past few years. My wife, Sally, 27 female, also dabbles a bit, and we have converted one of the rooms in our home to an art studio of sorts. There's easily a few $1,000s worth of art supplies in that room, and we tend to keep it locked for that reason. Most important to me are my pencils and markers, which were not cheap. Chart pack for those who care. Now on to the story. Sally and I had her family over for her aunt's birthday a few weeks back, and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law brought their kids with them, 7 female and 6 male. We had forgotten to lock the door to the room that day. About an hour into the party, I noticed that both kids were nowhere to be seen, so I asked my sister-in-law if they knew where they were. She said that they were drawing in the other room. I asked if my wife was with them, and she said she just told them which room it was in. I immediately rushed over to the art room and found it was a total mess. Most devastatingly was the fact that all my markers were ruined because the kids were using way too much force, causing the tips to fray. I yelled at them to get out, and they started crying. My brother-in-law ran over and started yelling at me saying they're just kids, and it's just markers. I told him that the markers alone were $17 a piece, and he said I was stupid for paying that much. Sally tried to defuse the situation, but my brother-in-law started yelling at her too, saying we can't have this much art supplies and not expect kids wanting to use it. I told him he's paying to replace the markers and other supplies they ruined, and he told me to go F myself and left. Everyone left shortly after that. I totaled up the damages, and I needed to replace about $375 and found that the kids drew on a piece I had spent the past week working on, as well as ruining a finished piece Sally did. I sent him a bill, and he blocked me. So I talked with my friend who was a lawyer and had him draft a claim for small claims court, and a letter to send my brother-in-law, which I paid him for, of course. My wife is in agreement about this, but her family has been mobbing us, telling us we're being ridiculous over some markers. Only my father-in-law, who has also taken up painting recently, and my other sister-in-law say that brother-in-law has to pay. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Parents need to watch their own kids. How entitled is it to just send them to a room in someone else's house and tell them to go wild with whatever is there without even asking? I don't get all the or the a-hole and everyone sucks here, saying you should have locked the door. How about the parents watch the children and make sure they stay with them? Though in this case that wouldn't have helped because they felt their kids were entitled to your stuff. The way they wrecked 2 pieces of actual art is the worst part of all. When I was about 7 or 8, I came home from school to find 2 other little girls, like 4 to 5 years olds, in my room, and they had ripped open all my sealed Barbie boxes my grandma gave me. When you walked into the apartment, my room was the very first room. I guess when my mom's friend came over, Mom didn't even know her friend brought her kids because she just told them to go into my room and play. This was back in the day when people just walked into other people's houses. Lol. For some reason, some people seem to think everybody else has to cater to their kids. Never saw my mom's friend again though. Not the a-hole. Considering brother-in-law didn't offer an apology or paying anything for the damages and just further insulting you, I don't see a problem going after him. Parents are responsible for their kids' actions in my opinion. You know they won't pay anything otherwise. I am not sure if the never-ending drama this will cause for the rest of your lives is worth it though. Yep, brother-in-law could have apologized or at least paid half. But what did Opie get? Not a damn thing. Not even a dime. That's cold as heck, not gonna lie. Yep, I could see Opie going too far. Maybe it's not worth likely destroying the relationship for that much money, but looks like brother-in-law is the one to blame anyway. The fact he immediately blamed Opie, undervalued the markers, etc. just screams arrogance. Am I the a-hole for exposing my friend's reason for a cash bar at her wedding? I, 40s female, have a friend 40s female who recently got married. I'm close enough to her to have been in her wedding. When we were planning her wedding with her, she kept mentioning how she was on a budget. Thankfully, she has connections and was able to put together an amazing dream wedding within her budget. With a guest list of about 200 people, they invited 300, but 200 RSVP'd yes. Her venue was a gift from her uncle who owns a wedding venue in New England. Her catering was gifted to her from a friend who owns an amazing restaurant. Her flowers were a gift from her aunt who is a florist. The rings were heavily discounted from a friend who works for a jewelry company and let her use their discount, so they paid cost. Her DJ and photographer were also gifts, as one of the members of the wedding party has a family event entertainment business. I guess what I'm trying to convey is that a lot of her wedding was gifted to her. Her largest expenses with the wedding were her dress and the rings. No shade, the wedding was amazing. She looked stunning and everyone had a fantastic time. At the wedding itself, there was a cash bar. The bride and groom aren't big drinkers, so I can totally get why they wouldn't want to fund anyone else's total buzz on their dime, especially when they were trying so hard to save for their honeymoon. After their wedding, they had saved enough to be able to honeymoon for a month in Italy. Roughly 2 months after their wedding, she and I got together for dinner. She showed me pictures from her honeymoon, and they were gorgeous. I told her again how happy I was for her, and we ordered. About halfway through dinner, she dropped a bomb on me, and I was absolutely stunned. Actually, I was pissed. She told me that a family member of hers owned a liquor store and gifted all the alcohol for her wedding to them. All she had to do was find someone to be the bartender. She asked one of the event bartenders at her uncle's venue if they wanted to make some extra cash. She offered them $20 an hour, plus tips, and then told all of her guests that the bar was cash. And they used the money towards their honeymoon fund. Her reception lasted roughly 4 hours. I went up to bar a few times, and because she set the prices as standard, I probably spent about $100 on 4 or 5 drinks plus tips. With 200 guests, some were drinking more, some were drinking less. If I use my amount and average it out, she made roughly $20,000 on her wedding. That doesn't include the gifts people gave her. I personally gave her a $200 check. I realize these numbers are speculation, but that's all I have to go on since she didn't give me an actual amount. She did say that the bar money covered a lot of the honeymoon. I was seeing red. I got up from the table and told her that since she made so much money off of me, she could cover my dinner. Then I texted the bridal party group chat and told them what she told me. The chat blew up, as I wasn't the only one that was miffed. This is where I think I might be the a-hole. I didn't have to tell everyone else what she said, and I didn't have to walk out of dinner. But a-hole or not, I know that I probably can't look past this and will continue this friendship. But I also don't know if I should try to mitigate the fallout with the rest of the friend group, because it wasn't my information to share. So please tell me, am I the a-hole? Edit. I went to sleep and woke up to way more comments than I can keep up with. I just wanted to thank everyone for their input. I'm going to answer the most common questions here. 1. How does she have so many connections? Both families are successful. If this had been her first wedding, her parents would have paid for the whole thing as a gift, although they would have also used the same connections to price it down. 2. What did she do as I left the restaurant? She followed me to the door trying to explain, but I was so upset that I just kept telling her that I didn't want to hear what she had to say. She couldn't leave with me because, like I said, I left her with a bill. 3. Was the family member who donated the liquor okay with her charging? I don't have the answer to this. Like I said, I didn't listen to her explanation, so maybe they were and maybe they weren't. Your guess is as good as mine. I need space from our friendship, but I don't know that it is completely over. Thank you again. Now for the comments. Not a-hole. This friend of yours is pretty much manipulating everybody at the wedding into paying for her honeymoon quite selfishly, when many of you already spent pretty big sums of money on gifts for the scum. Yeah, in addition to my gift and bar tab, I also paid $300 for my bridesmaid dress. I didn't include that in the post because I think it's pretty standard for bridesmaids to buy their own dresses, but I was still irritated. Dude, add in everything else that you paid for that wedding as well. I've spent close to $1,000 being a bridesmaid between all the different events, etc. If I was one of the friends, who was also a vendor, I would be seething right now. Not a-hole. So many people contributed services and things for the wedding, but then she charged premium prices for a cash bar? Not cool on her part. Thank you. It is definitely a large part of what made it so sour in my mouth. We kept telling her to scale back on the wedding because of her budget, but I guess we didn't have all the information. Not a-hole. From the sound of it, she had no budget and everything was handed to her, including her honeymoon. Everything was gifted to her except her dress and rings. That's not much of a wedding budget. Manipulating your guests into spending more money so you don't have to is low. She deserves your anger and dismissal. Not a-hole. I'm of the opinion that if you didn't want me to tell people about your actions, you probably shouldn't have done it in the first place. Her embarrassment is her own fault, not yours. She actually doesn't seem embarrassed at all. I only thought I was an a-hole because of how the information I gave made our other friends feel. She's been responding in our group chat that we are all jealous because she had her dream wedding with her dream honeymoon and her dream husband. Like I said, I'm done with this friendship. I just felt bad for ruining it for everyone else. Although I guess what did I really ruin, right? Why would she be embarrassed? If she's willing to treat people like this, do you really think she'd care what they think or how they feel? She got what she wanted. She doesn't need any of you now. By the way, not a-hole in your part. Next story. Am I the a-hole for involving my frat bro's dad into the debt he owes me? For background, I, 23 male, currently live with my fraternity brothers in this college town. We live in a 3x3. Originally, one of our brothers, Carl, 27 male, was in charge of paying the rent every month. We would send him our share of the rent, and he would pay our landlord in full. Back in February, I was approved for the Built card, which prides itself in giving points and waiving fees for paying rent. I asked Carl if I could take over the rent from there on, and he agreed. That same day, he also asked me if I could speak with him and the other roommates that afternoon. Weird, but I said I can be there. I come to pay for March's rent, and the landlord makes a group chat with all of us and states, "Thank you for your payment of $1,150. Last month, I had only received a payment of $150. There is a late fee of $50, so I would still be owed $1,050 for February. I will take that $1,050 from the payment recently made and apply the excess $100 for March's rent. For March, I would still need $1,050 for rent. Be sure this is paid before the 5th to avoid late fee. After receiving this message, I immediately called my roommate. I spoke with him on the phone and at home. I voiced my feelings of distrust and concern because I would have assumed he could come to us, his brothers. The household spoke with him as well. Reluctantly, I fronted the money, but I told Carl, "You owe me, and I'm not saying pay me back in full in a week, but please place some effort into repaying me." Currently, I am owed over $1,500 due to him being unable to pay his portion of rent. Carl does theater and has many practices as this is his major. But due to these practices, he has apparently cut hours while at work these past months. I was only made aware of this by one of our other roommates who works with Carl and was asked to cover multiple shifts. Carl also goes out with friends 1 to 2 times a month. I'm all for enjoying life and treating yourself, but it does feel wrong to me that he goes out when he can save money to pay off his debts or have his responsibilities in line. About once a week since this began, I've spoken with him about how it is going and how he's making money coming along, since I've only been paid $40 back for everything he owes me as of late. His plan is mostly revolved around trying to get loans or financial aid, but plans never seem to fall through. My final straw was when he went to Las Vegas in May. By that point, I was fed up. His father is a part of the fraternity as well, so I contact Carl's dad about the situation and my concerns that I will not be repaid the $2,000 I'm owed because his son does not make an effort to repay me, and I've tried to be nothing but respectful until this point. Currently, there is tension in the household, and Carl rarely comes to hang out with us if I'm involved. And if I appear in the living room, he will either do a chore or go to his room. I don't want this to happen, but I can only imagine owing your roommate $2,000. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. That is a lot of money at that age, and you went way above and beyond being patient with Carl. Not your fault he can't get his act together. If getting the dad involved gets you paid, I'm all for it. That's a lot of money at any age. Yeah, he does this to a non-brother in the real world. He's going to get hauled into small claims court and get his wages garnished. Info. Why are you the only one covering Carl's rent? Why aren't the other frat brothers helping? Sounds like you all need to discuss Carl's future as a roommate, since he can't keep up with the share. In terms of the roommates, everyone else is part-time and a full-time student. So they live paycheck to paycheck, but they're able to balance it out and budget. I'm the only full-time worker with a decent pay. I can make a savings account and be fine if I get fired or laid off. So they cannot really contribute, but I'm just happy they can sustain themselves and can budget. In terms of others in the frat, he owes about 3 other brothers money. Not as much as me, but he still owes them each like over $300. I was not made aware of this until after the fact. We have discussed our concerns with Carl. Because our lease is up by the end of July, we've told him how we're concerned that 1, these debts wouldn't be paid and it's truly unjust. 2, that this is a habit we cannot break. At least here in this town, we care about him and will give it to him straight. He plans to move to New York City after graduation in December, and I have told him that I'm concerned if this keeps going, he'll face worse consequences. Not a-hole, but you guys are going real soft on him. In my fraternity, you got 1 strike when it came to debts. Strike 2 was a come to Jesus talk. Strike 3 was a character assassination until compliance was achieved. My brother said in the army, strike 3 was they'd beat the heck out of said person and called it a training accident. Last story. Am I the a-hole for agreeing to babysit my friend's kids on my day off? My boyfriend, male 36, and I, female 29, have been together for a year. We moved together last month. We don't have kids, and we are not planning on having them. Both of us work 5 days a week, but my days off are always Thursday and Friday, while his days off varies from week to week. So our days don't always match. And it's possible that they don't match for weeks or even couple of months if we are unlucky enough. So last week, my boyfriend's days off were Friday and Saturday, and mine as usual were Thursday and Friday, which meant both of us were free on Friday, and we were pretty excited to enjoy our day off together. It was our first day off together since we moved together. We didn't have anything planned, but I was looking forward to laze around with him the entire day. Friday at 2 a.m., I received a call from my best friend, female 29. She was crying because her husband, a truck driver, was in a traffic accident. The accident was in a city 8 hours away, and he was taken to the nearest hospital in a really bad shape. My friend said she and her mother-in-law wanted to leave to the hospital right now, so they could be there by mid-morning. My best friend has a 10-month-old son, and she said she obviously can't get a hold of her usual babysitter at 2 a.m., so she asked me if I can watch her son for a few hours until she can reach her babysitter. Now, I'm also not a huge fan of kids, especially babies. I don't know how to deal with them. But this is an emergency, and I understand it's probably impossible to get a babysitter at 2 a.m. My friend had never asked me to babysit before, as she knows I'm not good with the kids. But this is an emergency, and what are friends for, right? So I said yes, and I told her she could drop the baby at my place. As soon as I disconnected the call, my boyfriend told me he couldn't believe I agreed to babysit, and that he didn't want a screaming baby in our house, that it would ruin his day. I agreed he shouldn't be forced to interact with a kid against his will. After all, I was the one who agreed to babysit. So I called my friend and told her I will babysit at her place instead. My boyfriend got angry at me again, but I left anyway and went to my friend's place. My friend called the babysitter at 8 a.m., but she said she wasn't available until noon. So I ended up babysitting from 2 a.m. until noon. When I returned to my place, my boyfriend was still angry at me. He said I ruined our day off together, as I was missing half the day to go babysit a kid that's not even mine. I tried to explain that I was just trying to help my friend. He has been ignoring me since Friday. He said it was clear to me my best friend is more important than him, as I picked helping her over spending the day with him. I told him it was not a matter of who is more important, but he is still upset. I understand I missed half a day off with him, and that we might not get another for a few weeks, but I think it was a special circumstance. My best friend needed my help. Am I the a-hole? Edit for info. Yes, I did told him that my bestie's husband was in an accident. We didn't have anything planned except for sleeping in and laze around the entire day. My bestie's husband was in ICU until Monday morning. He was moved to another ward and is expected to make a full recovery. My friend and her mother-in-law are still by his side. I didn't need to babysit the baby again after I gave him to the babysitter Friday noon, as the baby's other grandma, my best friend's mom, flew to our city the next day to pick up her grandkid, and the baby is staying with her during this situation. Not the a-hole. Might want to reconsider that relationship if this is how he reacts when you help someone in an emergency. Not the a-hole. Exactly. If your partner is going to act like that and give you hell in such a traumatic situation that has to do with someone very important to you, like your best friend, maybe you're better off without him. Red flag. Even if you're only friends with someone like him, would make sense to reconsider. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry, but this is bringing up a ton of red flags. He is acting incredibly immature. You helped a friend in need, and had kept your part of your promise to not force the baby on him. You went to her apartment and took the baby there. It's not like the parents were going out to party or date. There was an emergency, and no one else was able to care for the child in the meantime. I implore you rethink this relationship. Because if this is how he acts when he doesn't get his way over something as small as not seeing you for a few hours, I'd rather not stick around when he doesn't get his way for bigger things. Run. Yep, not seeing a shred of empathy from him. Seems to only care about his needs. Not the a-hole. You could have been together on Friday if he was mature enough to understand the circumstances of your decision. In that case, you would be at your home and will have a helping hand. I understand a screaming baby could put off some people, but he can just switch rooms. And considering that it was his day off, he shouldn't be angry about seeing a baby. I don't see a problem here being you. Helping someone for a few hours in their time of trouble is what a friend does, and a partner is responsible for his other half to take care of you. Consider this a red flag. There could be a past trauma or something affecting his decision-making. I think if you end up marrying him, he can just leave you when you are sick or in trouble, as he doesn't like your friends visiting you at a hospital or something. Sorry to say this, but I would advise you to clear things up before moving ahead with your relationship. Am I the a-hole for what I did when my friend's husband wanted us to have dinner alone together? I, female 31, was living in another country for 3 years. I kept in contact with few friends from college, including Camilla, female 29. Camilla met and got married to her husband Joe, male 35, while I was away. I came home a month ago and started hanging out with Camilla more than the other friends since we're close. However, I noticed Joe behaving strangely around me, constantly complimenting my looks/outfits, and recently has been trying to get us to have time alone together. This gave me weird vibes, but I didn't dare tell Camilla since they're newlyweds, 2 months. So what I did was, whenever he runs into me in the mall or the coffee shop, I'd instantly call Camilla and give her my location so she could come. He ran into me in the restaurant last night and sat at my table without even asking if it was okay. I let it slide. Then he started complimenting my outfit and my nails. Then went on about how he's always wanted us to have alone time together so that we could get to know each other well. I smiled and immediately texted Camilla telling her her husband was with me and asked her to join us for dinner. Joe kept asking me questions and smiling at me every 3 to 5 seconds till Camilla showed up. I saw her, waved and said, "Oh, what a coincidence. Camilla's here." Joe's smile faded and his face turned red. She said hi, then sat next to him and he didn't say anything but stared at me angrily the whole time. They went home after dinner and I stayed longer. Once I got into my car, Joe called me and was annoyed, saying I shouldn't have called Camilla when he already stated he wanted us to have dinner alone. He again said that I was being paranoid for no reason because he just wanted to get to know me better as Camilla's friend. But to be completely honest, I didn't buy into this excuse. He said that he didn't appreciate how sneaky and dismissive I was towards his wishes, and that I hurt his feelings because of what I did. Am I the a-hole? Am I being unreasonable in not sitting alone with him? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. That was epic. You were sneaky and dismissive of his wishes? Give me a break. You might want to talk with her about how he's behaving though. He sounds very creepy. Gaslighting 101. He's scary. 100% agree. Opie's friend needs to know. He's giving off predator vibes. Don't answer any more calls from him unless you're able to record them, regardless of legality. Those only come into play if brought before a court. So you have proof in case he tries to twist your conversation in any way. And he definitely gives off the vibes that he would. Not the a-hole. And why not tell him you called Camilla? I'd do it every time right there. Hey Camilla, your husband somehow managed to be at the same restaurant/coffee shop/retail store I'm in. Again. You want to join us? Just tell him I do not want to have dinner with you. And this is actually really creepy that you keep turning up whenever I'm alone. Let him get angry. He's acting really inappropriately and borderline dangerous. OP, I don't know if you live in a small town or neighborhood where this could be happenstance, but my senses are tingling about how often he knows where you are. Maybe check out your phone for tracking? Hope I'm just being paranoid. Yeah, the frequency of this is questionable. Not the a-hole, for not sitting with him and being alone together. If someone saw you two together, they could immediately jump to conclusions and assume that he's having an affair. Glad you didn't take the risk of being with him alone. But you're the a-hole for not telling Camilla about Joe. Come on, tell her that Joe has been hitting on you. Yeah, she just got married, but his behavior is probably going to get worse. He probably has cheated on her by now. This is such a tricky situation for OP. If she tells Camilla, Camilla could blame her to save face about her husband. If she doesn't tell Camilla and she finds out, Camilla could blame her just the same. It's really a no-win for everyone. I think OP's doing the right thing to put Camilla in the situation so she can see for herself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for keeping my boyfriend from his family gifts? Plus update. Original post. Me and my boyfriend are preparing to buy a house for $330K. We have put in our offer, gotten the inspection, and are just waiting for all the contingencies to be met. We have until next week to pull out of the contract. The house is small but nice. Everything was falling into place until his mom offered him to buy her old $500K home for only $350K. It isn't the nicest house, but it seemed like a great deal if we fix it up and resell it. But this is where things get complicated. $330K is already at the top of our budget. We could only afford it because we got seller help. Since we can't afford $350K, she wants us to rent the house from her for 2 years until we can afford it while we fix it up. But the main reason we are buying it to avoid losing money from renting. The house has visible deteriorated spots on the pillars and the whole inside needs to be remodeled. Who knows what else is wrong with it? He asked me if I want to buy his mom's house, but I said no because it's too much work. Also, We aren't even sure if it's really worth 500K. He obviously really wanted me to consider it, so I told him to get pictures from his mom of how the inside currently looks, because I haven't fully seen the inside. As soon as he got the pictures, I saw how much work it was, and it made me not want it even more. He also told me that once we fix it up and sell it, his mom wants us to give her 100K from whatever money we make to return the favor. After the 2 years of renting, remodels, and spending 100K, we wouldn't even make that much money in my opinion. I told him I don't want the house still. He was like, okay, fine, then call my mom and tell her that you don't want it. Me and his mom don't have the best relationship, but I felt like it isn't my place to call her to tell her that anyways. I never even said I wanted it in the first place. He then calls his mom to tell her I don't want the house because it's too much work. He keeps trying to get me to say something while he is talking to her to get us to have a conversation, but I don't want to be a part of it. Once I finally gave in and talked to her, she starts guilt-tripping me saying I'm keeping him from his family gift. After the call ends, he says if I don't agree, he is going to be upset about this for a long time because he is missing out on a great deal. I honestly feel like there is a possibility of something fishy is going on, and his mom is just trying to make money off of us fixing the house up. If it is a gift, why do we have to give her 100K at the end? It wouldn't be the first time we fixed things up for her and didn't get much in return. Anyways, now I don't know if I'm being an a-hole and keeping him from his blessings or if I'm protecting us from years of stress. I personally feel like we would be much happier in our nice house that we already found. Not to mention he was happy about the house we found until the situation came up. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. This all sounds fishy to me. Are you sure the contract doesn't also include mommy also gets to live in the house with you the entire time forever? Plus you have to give me money. Maybe mom wants someone to upgrade her house, she says as a renter. Then mom would decide to sell it to someone else? Funny you mentioned that because 1, the house is located 1 minute from her house and I felt like she would be intruding in our space somehow because of that. And 2, she had to start to fix up that house's basement in the past because we wanted to rent the basement out from her. And right when we finished clearing it up, she rented it to someone else. Okay, so she's literally screwed y'all in the past. Your boyfriend's judgment seems lacking. Why he doesn't think she'd screw you all over again is beyond me. Or why he thinks buying a house you have to put money into fixing up and paying her back is a better deal than a house you wouldn't have to do any of that at all. Opie will be nuts to financially ties herself to this guy. Don't buy mom's house. Straight up tell him it's a crap deal and you aren't getting ripped off by his mom again. And tell him if it tries to tantrum his way into making you agree, then your relationship will be done. This is not how partnerships should work. Don't buy any other house either. Time to really think about the financial responsibility of this guy and the respect he actually has for you. Newsflash, he cares about keeping his mommy happy more than you or your life together. Update after talking to my boyfriend and showing him this post. He claims she will help us pay for the renovations of this house if we buy it and not let us be broke. He claims we won't have to give her 100K, but instead 50% of whatever we end up making off of it. In my opinion, still a bad deal. He claims he doesn't even care about getting the house anymore. Despite all the comments, he doesn't feel like he is being a mama's boy or being delusional about it. In the comments, I mentioned that we started to fix up one of her house's basements so we can rent it from her. There was a lot of trash in there, so we spent days bagging it all up. After we cleaned it up, she went back on our deal and rented it to someone else. He says he isn't mad about that because we didn't put any money into it yet. We still ended up moving to a different one of her house's basements instead. I told him that even though she gave us another basement, she still lied to us, so she can't be trusted. Oh yeah, and she ended up throwing us out of that basement anyways, and putting all our stuff on the street. Pretty much that basement ended up flooding multiple times because she didn't take proper care of it. Since it was unlivable, we went apartment hunting. She got mad at us for finding a new place to live and then threw us out on streets before our new lease started. She even locked us out of a lot of our items and made us have to come back with the police to try to get it back. She tried to lie to the police and say we didn't even live there. All in all, he doesn't see that his mom can't be trusted and I don't understand why. I'm about to explode. At this point, I am worrying about moving in with him at all. This will continue to be a lifelong problem he has. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my boyfriend a copy of the key to my deceased friend's place? My female 27 friend of 15 years Aaron, male 30, passed away a few weeks ago. He wasn't married nor had a family, so I'm the one responsible for his belongings and his apartment. I keep the key with me to visit the apartment every weekend to check on it. My boyfriend noticed and asked to have a copy of the key to the apartment. I was utterly confused by his request. I asked what for, since he and Aaron weren't even that close given that he and I had been dating for 6 months. He got offended and accused me of gatekeeping Aaron's memory. I said I was sorry, but Aaron's apartment has valuable stuff that I cannot risk missing. And besides, what business could he possibly have there? He got offended and accused me of implying that he is untrustworthy and a thief. I tried to cut the argument, but he kept going on about how I hurt his feelings and showed an incredible amount of distrust towards him. He went home, but the texting kept going. He's insisting, saying if I trust him, then I gotta let him have a copy of the key. Am I the a-hole for not giving it to him, or am I being unreasonable paranoid? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The fact he wants a key in the first place is weird. It sounds like he wants some control over your grief. But what makes me especially suspicious of his motives is, he got offended and accused me of implying that he is untrustworthy and a thief. You never implied that, did you? So him jumping straight to that conclusion might be telling of what is on his mind. I bet he just told himself here. He is definitely eyeing the valuables in that flat. No, I did not. I don't know where he came up with this idea. It's called projection, or more casually, a guilty conscience. Trust your instincts. Do not give him a copy of the key and don't leave it where he can access it. This is a major red flag, and it's time to reevaluate your relationship. He's gaslighting you about your friend who died to access his things. This is not a good guy. I second this. Like, what does he want in that apartment? Why the weird attitude? You just lost your best friend. He should be helping you through this, not pushing you to do something you don't want to do. Ditch the loser, not the a-hole. He accused Opie of implying he was untrustworthy and a thief. I think he told on himself right there. Maybe Aaron had a game system or watch collection that he was eyeballing. His reaction is too over the top for it to be an innocent reason that he wanted a key. The only other reason I can think of is that he wants to search for evidence of whether Opie and her friend were more than friends. He can't fathom a man and woman having a platonic relationship. That's a possibility, but I agree that it's probably just a take stuff. Or he wants to do something weird/illegal there. I'd dump him for this. However, if you aren't there yet, Opie, for some weird reason because this is insane, get a camera in the friend's apartment and leave the key out where he can get it. See what happens when it goes there. Last story. Am I the a-hole for how I responded when my ex said he wanted to see our baby? A few people in my life have mixed opinions on this situation, so I'm posting for an outside opinion since I'm really unsure. I'm 16 female and my ex, Joe, is 17 male. I found out I was pregnant in December, when myself and Joe were on the verge of breaking up. In hindsight, I should have broken up with him sooner. Joe heard a rumor that I was lying about my pregnancy, and despite showing him the proof, he blocked me out entirely. I tried everything to contact him, but since I wasn't visibly pregnant, he refused to believe me. I have since spoken to a solicitor who unfortunately can't do anything since my ex doesn't have a known address, and I was never told his real surname. I decided it wasn't worth fighting. I avoided posting my pregnancy on social media, and I've never posted a picture of my daughter, who is now 2 months old. Yesterday, I went into town because baby's growing out of her clothes and needed some new ones. My ex frequents this area, and he ended up seeing me with a baby. He stopped me in the middle of the street with his new girlfriend and asked was the baby his. I said yes, and tried to walk away, but he blocks my path and asked why I never told him. I told him I did, but he refused to believe me. So after a while, I gave up. I told him to leave me alone because I've received enough harassment from his friends for faking my pregnancy. I didn't want any contact from him. He tried contacting me through Instagram yesterday evening, and I told him he wanted nothing to do with her until now. He's not having anything to do with her, especially since he's homeless and unemployed. There's no way he can support her. He's tried messaging me everywhere since, and after speaking to some people in my friend circle, they're decided. They think I should show Joe some mercy, but others disagree. I've done everything without his support until now, so I shouldn't even provide him with the option of it. Am I being unfair? Not the a-hole, but I would make sure that you communicate what happened to your solicitor. Joe may have a legal right to your child, even if he doesn't have a moral one. It's completely reasonable to want to protect your child from someone who treated you so badly. And just to second this, please gather all documentation you can to support your case. If you have any texts where you showed him proof of the pregnancy, save screenshots. You probably still have evidence of the harassing messages you received from his friends. Make sure to save those so you can demonstrate his ability to enlist his friends in a harassment campaign against you. Write down the timeline in an email and send it to someone you trust, so you have a timestamp if it tries to argue something different later. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If he wants to step up and meet his child, he has a legal path forward here. He can file for custody, take the paternity test, get himself on the birth certificate, and then establish a visitation schedule and child support. I 100% agree. If he wants to be in contact with the baby, you can't block him because it will only backfire when the kid is older and will blame you for not having her father in her life. But he needs to take the legal route and take all of the legal responsibility that comes with being a father. P.S. Did he tell you a fake last name before? That bit is a bit shady to me. Am I the a-hole for not showing my friend any sympathy when she got mugged because she slept with a total stranger? My friend/roommate has always been a huge party animal, and quite frankly, a demon. And this was basically caused by not having much surveillance growing up as a teenager and spiraling even more in her early 20s. But oh, don't even dare try to stop her from living a little, or you might catch an elbow to the nose. I'm saying this because this woman literally elbowed me in the nose when I tried to stop her at this one bar from going home with a total stranger. The guy looked like bad news, so excuse me for trying to save your life. She told me she was going over to his place for a little fun, wink wink, and I told her no. She looked at me and laughed. What are you, my mom? Then went with him outside the bar. And when I tried to reach for her hand and pull her away from him, she turned and wham, funny bone to the nose bridge. Leave me alone and go home, she yelled. Everyone around me looked at me and I felt so embarrassed. She didn't even seem to care that my nose was bleeding. Anyways, the next day comes and I hear a knock on the apartment door. I go over and look through the peephole, and lo and behold, it's the nosebreaker herself. I open the door and she has no shoes, no phone, and no purse. I didn't need a story being told to me to know what happened. Someone got mugged. She walks past me fuming, calling the guy all sorts of names, and saying how when she finds him, she'll make him regret it. Well, while she's going on her little rampage, I'm over at the kitchen island pouring myself a cup of coffee with one AirPod in, listening to a true crimes podcast. She looks at me, and at this point she can clearly see the "I couldn't care less" written all over my face. And she asks me, "Don't you even care?" And almost as if I knew she was gonna say it, I responded with a quick no. She then directed her anger towards me, saying I was a witch, an a-hole, a jerk. She then said, "I could have been killed. Why didn't you stop me from going home with that guy?" I'm not joking. I wanted to leap across that kitchen island and do some damage, but instead I decided to keep my cool. Long story short, I'm currently at my parents' house right now. I did all the paperwork and moved out of that apartment and far away from her. I've blocked her in my contacts and on social media. And as I write this, I have friends messaging me what happened and why did you move out. I'll tell them when I'm done, but low-key I want to know, was I an a-hole for simply not caring? Now for the top comments. A grown adult assaults you and breaks your nose when you advise her against an irresponsible action. Then has the audacity to say, "Why didn't you stop me?" She's a grown adult and responsible for her own actions. Not a-hole. Not a-hole. I have a nicer version of that friend. Love to party and hook up, but very sweet and no elbow throwing. I'd love to say she grew out of that phase and lived happily ever after, but no. Her life isn't made for TV movie bad, not a drug addict or homeless, but in her 50s and regretting a lot of dumb decisions she made when she was younger. My point, you're not responsible for people continuing to make bad decisions. You did the right thing. Next week it will be a different drama with her. Smartest thing you did was getting away from her. You tried to stop her but got a broken nose for being a good friend. You were correct. She got what she deserved. Maybe she will remember this incident the next time she wants a random pickup. Seriously, Opie is lucky that she never brought some trash over to the apartment. That would have hurt them both. Not a-hole. I'm sorry, but I had a friend in my teens and early 20s who when drunk would always get violent. Usually with me. This happened at least 4 times. I'll take responsibility by saying that I didn't listen to my other friends telling me that she was bad news, and to stop hanging out with her, and continued to because I had no self-esteem and poor impulse control. But she moved back to town last year and has repeatedly tried to add me as a friend on Facebook. I just blocked her, and now whenever she sees me in town, she scowls at me. Too bad for her. She's a crappy person and a crappy friend. If she ever comes near me again and tries to lay a hand on me, you bet I'm calling the police on her abusive butt. Not the a-hole. Stay away from her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not agreeing to be friends with a guy that bullied me in high school? I, 25 female, was severely bullied in high school. I was considered quite chubby. I think I was 130 pounds at the time, 160 centimeters, but I had a bit of a stutter. The stutter was because of anxiety, and it would only happen when I was around people that would be mean or bully me. In my junior year, a boy in my grade joined in on the action. Let's call him Jake. He was so much worse than everyone else. He used to follow me on my walk home and pour things on me, push me into bushes or into oncoming traffic, etc. He once pushed me into a lake when we were on a school trip when he found out I couldn't swim. I could go on and on about the things he did to me, but we would be here all day. After one particular incident where he made fun of me for my appearance, I really couldn't take it anymore. It wasn't the worst thing he did, but it was the last straw that broke the camel's back. I tried to end myself with sleeping pills, but my uncle found me and took me to the hospital. I was in a coma for 11 days. I didn't go back to school after that and was homeschooled for my senior year. I never spoke to anyone from my school except 2 girls, Kate and Sarah, who checked up on me at a hospital. We're still friends. I moved away from that town after high school. I'm back in town for the first time in 7-ish years now. My cousin is getting married, so I'm here for a wedding. I decided to come a week early to spend time with my parents. I went to a bar with Kate and Sarah a couple of days ago, and I saw Jake. I didn't recognize him at first, but Sarah told me it was him. I felt kind of anxious, but decided to pretend like he wasn't there. He approached us as we were leaving and said hi to me. I said hi and engaged in a small talk. Our Uber arrived, so we said bye to him and left. He sent me an email. Not sure how he got it, but I've had this email since high school, so maybe he's had it since. I don't know. It was quite long. He apologized for everything he did and said he's mortified he was even that kind of person. He said it's been haunting him since he heard of my attempt and is deeply sorry. I replied to him saying it's alright and I forgave him a long time ago because I didn't want to hold on to hate and resentment from high school. I ran into him again at a pharmacy and he asked if we could talk. We went outside and he asked if we could go for dinner as friends and catch up. I said sorry, but I would really rather not. He asked why I can't go for dinner if I've apparently forgiven him. I said forgiveness doesn't mean I have to engage or be friends with him, and simply I don't want to be friends. It'll be weird given our history, and I'd rather not be reminded of my high school years. He looked bummed out but didn't insist, and left. He sent another email 3 hours ago saying he can't bring himself to forgive himself if he doesn't feel like I have, and that me refusing to even have dinner with him makes him feel like I haven't forgiven him and the guilt is eating him up. I replied saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not having dinner with you, and you should take that up with a therapist. I've told you I have forgiven you. I just don't want to have dinner with you, and I'm not going to force myself to do so to ease your conscience. I told my parents of this whole thing and they said I'm being too harsh on him and that I should do what I can to make him forgive himself because no one deserves to live with guilt. They said one dinner is nothing and I should just suck it up and go. I said no and kind of got angry at them. I really don't know whether I'm being irrational or not. Am I the a-hole? Your parents are the a-holes. You, and let's not forget he, made an attempt on your life. How could your parents tell you to just suck it up? You're so not the a-hole. You are 100% in the right. Forgiveness does not mean friendship. And if he's too stupid to understand that, that's on him. Every word and step you have taken are completely spot on. Not the a-hole. Yes, forgiveness does not mean friendship. Not the a-hole. This, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Doesn't mean you forget the pain caused. It just means you have been able yourself to move past it. If he can't accept that, then that's on him. And is still an a-hole bully for trying to guilt OP into anything beyond what she is comfortable doing. Can we start to finally truly normalize that a person who wronged does not have to be the bigger person? I'm so sick of hearing how Opie's parents responded. Yeah, you were treated like absolute crap to the point of self-harm. But hey, he said sorry, so you should be friends now. Like what? No, just no. Also, sorry, but some people do deserve to live with guilt. But if he needs to do anything to get past the guilt, then he should seek therapy, not expect Opie to fix him. I think you handled it extremely well, not the a-hole. Way better than I would have personally. Opie knows what she is comfortable with, and they respect herself enough to not put herself into situations she is not comfortable with. Also, her response is extremely gracious, while also setting boundaries. Great job in every aspect, Opie. That part. Like her parents really want her to go out to dinner with a guy who attempted to end her more than once and drove her to attempt ending herself. All of it boggles my mind. Yeah, not sure I'd be on good standing for a while with my folks for something like that. Also, I would have told the guy after he insisted that I was only being polite before. But since he is pushing the issue, he shouldn't ever be able to find relief for what he did. And there is no forgiveness that can be had for such atrocious behavior. Dude may just be trying to hook up anyway. Not the a-hole, bless you. It sounds to me that he's still bullying you. It's all about power. Unlike you, he obviously hasn't grown as a human being. I think you have behaved impeccably. What will he ask for next to prove you forgive him? Something else you didn't want to do or makes you feel uncomfortable? No, you've done brilliantly. Well done. Last story. Am I the a-hole for getting upset with my morbidly obese cousin for editing a picture of me? Plus many updates. I, 18 female, recently went to a family gathering that my parents were in charge of. They had food, drinks, and games. I'll call the cousin in question Annie. Annie, 28 female, is morbidly obese. We never talk about weight or anything like that in our family. I respect and love her and don't have a problem with her weight. At a party, she wanted to take a bunch of pictures with people. She got this one really cute picture of me and her and asked if she could post it. I said of course, and the rest of the party went without incident. The next morning when I checked Instagram, I was horrified to see that she had severely edited a picture. She made me look like I was about 200 pounds heavier than I am. Fitness and health is super important to me. I exercise daily and eat really well. I have no problem with her size or anything, but I don't want her to make me look like the same as her, especially since she is friends with like all of my friends and family. She posted about 3 pics, one with me and her, the edited one with her husband, and one of just her. Anyways, I called her and asked why she edited a picture. She explained that she was trying to promote body positivity and show that it's okay to be plus-sized. I said okay, fine, but you didn't get my permission. Also, isn't that kind of portraying that my body isn't okay? She got really upset and refused to take down the photo. She then started ranting and said, I don't understand what it's like to be fat, and life is just so easy for me. I was very upset by this and argued that no, I work hard for my body. She got really mad and hung up. I talked to the rest of my family about it and my parents and siblings were totally on my side. But my other cousin, 30 female, called me and screamed at me that Annie has always struggled with weight and food comforts her and that I am such a jerk. She then was saying she would make sure the photo never got taken down. I thought I was right, but now I kind of feel bad. I didn't mean to bring up weight issues, and I didn't say it was easy being Annie. I just didn't want that photo of me out there. Am I in the wrong? Now for the comments before reading the mini updates. You are not the a-hole. Your cousin is. What you do is post a picture of yourself in the comments and say, I don't look like that. Yep, tell her that body positivity is for all sizes, and she shouldn't distort pictures of you because you feel, keyword, beautiful just the way you are, and that you don't appreciate her body shaming you for her own entertainment. This, post a real picture of yourself in the comments. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she just didn't want to be the biggest person in the photo, especially with her response to you working hard on your body. I'm sure weight can be a sore subject for morbidly obese people, but that doesn't mean she has the right to act like this. And just because you're thinner, it definitely doesn't mean that your life is just so easy. And isn't body positivity about feeling good in the skin you're in? Why would she use that to justify her editing your body to look like hers? I'm morbidly obese. I know it. I'm not sensitive about weight talk. I know it's a problem that I need to solve, but I'd never act like the cousin here. She's married, and obviously he loves her how she is. And cousin is harassing an 18-year-old when she's near 30. So not a-hole. As someone who has struggled with my weight for years, I take full ownership and responsibility for that. Food didn't make me fat, I did. And body positivity does not mean making a healthy person look bigger to make someone feel better. Body positivity is about accepting all bodies and being confident regardless of size. Sorry this happened to you. Thanks for saying that. The thing is, I love my cousin just the way she is. I don't have a problem with her size. I just don't want her editing my pictures or putting me down either. Tell her you feel very hurt that she doesn't think you're beautiful just the way you are, and that body positivity is to be inclusive and not reserved for anyone's shape or size. Finish with, I feel beautiful the way I am and I'm disappointed that you decided to distort my body for your own entertainment. Edit. Thanks for all the responses, everyone. They're really helpful. I'm going to report the photo and get my parents to as well. Also, I'm going to update my profile picture just in case. I understand wanting to call her out and stuff online, but I know she really cherishes social media and her followers, and I don't want to put her down. I think she's just in a bad place right now. All I really want is the photo to be removed. I know it seems like enabling her, but I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to handle the situation with caution. I just don't want to burn any bridges with my cousin or the rest of my/her family. Update? Sorry I've been busy with work, but I reported a post and so did my parents and 2 other siblings. I also told my parents how upset it made me and they want to step in. They're gonna talk with my aunt and Annie this weekend about it. Hopefully that clears some of this up, but my aunt said Annie doesn't want me there, so she's still really angry, I guess. I also updated my profile picture, but I'm pretty sure most of my friends and family knew it was altered. That's what my parents helped me realize because I've seen like most of them within the last 6 months. Am I the a-hole for calling out my future sister-in-law after she compared being pregnant to my fiancé going through cancer treatment? My fiancé Joe is undergoing treatment for bone cancer in his leg and pelvis. He had surgery and is now doing chemo. His family has been supportive, except for his sister Alexis. She has a 2-year-old and is 7 months pregnant, and she often accuses Joe of using his illness as an excuse to not help drive her places because she doesn't drive or watch a toddler. She got upset when he wouldn't give her money that was raised to help him while he's out of work, going so far as to make her own online fundraiser, and she would post the link anytime his mother shared a link to his. Mind you, Alexis is not working right now, but she lives with her mother who provides for her every need. I've tried to be patient knowing she's in a difficult position being a single mom of soon-to-be 2 little ones. Regardless, my frustration boiled over yesterday and I would like some feedback. Their mom hosted a combined baby shower for Alexis and birthday party for the 2-year-old. Joe wanted to go, but before guests arrived, he started feeling pretty tired and sick and went to his mom's room to lay down. He slept through the whole event and woke up shortly after we had cleaned up. Family members had been asking where he was and expressed concern when I said he was upstairs sleeping. I don't think Alexis liked that people were asking about him, so when he woke up, she complained that he got to take a nap while she handled everything. Which wasn't true because me, her mom and her best friend took care of everything. Alexis just helped with cleanup. I didn't know what to say at the time, so I kept quiet. Joe, for the most part, ignored her as well, so I followed his lead. The following day, yesterday, she posted pictures of the event and the first line of the post said, "Thank you to everyone who woke up yesterday and chose to celebrate my sons and me." I texted her, "What's the first part of your post supposed to mean? You know, Joe wouldn't have missed his nephew's party for the world. He's exhausted." She said, "Cry me a river. I'm tired and hurting too, but you don't see me napping during important family events." I sent her pictures of him throughout his treatment, sleeping in the chemo chair, sleeping in the car, pushing through physical therapy, etc., and I sent the following. "I don't doubt that you're tired, but Joe is sick and literally just trying to live. I hope someday you learn to support your brother instead of being jealous, indignant, or whatever it is." I sent screenshots to their mom and asked her to talk some sense to Alexis. After which, Alexis texted me one more time calling me an a-hole, among other names. Now that I've had time to cool off, I'm wondering if it was even my place to call her out. Joe was ignoring her. Their mom was ignoring her, so maybe I should have too. She just frustrates me so much. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Having witnessed someone battling cancer and chemo, Christ, I can't say what I'd like to say about the sister-in-law. Seriously, what a witch. My mom is a breast cancer survivor. It's so hard. I hope you and your loved one are doing okay. I would have went even further and publicly asked why she's so jealous of a cancer sufferer getting attention, that competing with a sick man makes her trashy. I watched my ex-mother-in-law do chemo 3 times. I've seen how tired and wrecked people are after those treatments, and wouldn't wish that on anyone, and would never dream of trying to say someone is just using it to get out of things. Not a-hole. I'd post on her post a reply saying something like, "Thanks to everyone who had heart to express concern for my husband who is exhausted from his chemo treatments. His love for his family got him to the party, but sometimes the treatments are too much on him and he needs to rest." This is the way. Alexis is a grade A witch with main character syndrome. Sorry, too much emotion, I know. Not a-hole. I was a mom of 5 when I found out I had colon cancer. I know people are different, but I can assure you that none of my pregnancies compared to cancer. I hope you're okay and doing well now. For people with complaining mindset, a pinprick is definitely worse than stage 4 cancer. Hope you're doing good. Sending you hugs. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to celebrate my brother's recovery because he was driving while drunk? Plus update. Original post. I-19 female, have a brother, 21 male who has been spoiled rotten. He gets away with anything. He doesn't listen or take orders from anybody. And my parents don't seem to care about his attitude. There's been many fights about this. My brother was driving under the influence and crashed into 2 cars on the highway. He was in the hospital for a good while. Don't remember exactly how long. Everyone was worried about his condition, and each day has just been non-stop worrying about whether he was going to be okay. There's been a couple fights, because my parents said the incident didn't matter too much. As long as the people involved in the crash didn't die, I could not believe it. Well, he was able to recover and my parents wanted to throw a party to celebrate his recovery. I was happy he was okay, but I have no sympathy for drunk drivers. My childhood friend died from a drunk driving accident, and I had to go into therapy for it. I had a problem with this because it felt like they didn't care that 2 people got hit. I voiced this opinion, and I got crucified basically. My parents said I was a bad sister for not being happy for my brother. I said I was happy, but it's like they didn't even care. And the reason he's allowed to get away with crap like this is because they keep filling his thick head with illusions. I'll admit, I got a tiny bit emotional because I remembered my friend's death, so I just went to my room and slammed the door. My dad came banging on my door yelling, "I hope you're freaking happy." I deeply regret even saying anything now. But am I wrong for thinking it's weird and disrespectful that they don't even care about the situation just because nobody died, and not wanting to celebrate my brother? Edit. By recovery, I mean in terms of injuries. As far as I know, my brother's been charged. I'm currently on the way to my boyfriend's house now because I can't stand my family. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but I would have attended and gave him a toast. To my brother, the drunk, who nearly killed 2 people and himself. Make sure to include the enablers. Parents. Yes, to my brother, who narrowly escaped death, who included strangers in his narrow escape. My brother, who drove drunk, who very nearly killed 2 people who were just going about their daily lives. And to my parents who think celebrating this, when they know full well my best friend died at the hands of someone just like my dear brother. A drunk who got behind the wheel and didn't care about the lives they tore apart. Long may we celebrate his reckless behavior. Drink up, because we all know how much my brother loves his drinks. Can you imagine what Opie's parents would have done to her after that? Horrified a father would speak to his child the way he did Opie. Sad. They have pretty much ruined their son by never holding him accountable. Bad parenting 100%. Opie's not a-hole at all, but her family is. Absolutely not, a-hole. I am disgusted with your parents especially, since they have to have known about the circumstances of your friend's death. And they should understand why you feel the way you do about this. Right? The words my mother used when discussing drunk driving with me as a teenager were, "If you ever got a DUI, do yourself a favor and don't call me. You'll be safer in jail than out on bail." I have multiple relatives who have lost licenses for drunk driving, and I cannot for the life of me understand why it's not a bigger deal than it is. Let alone why my mom and some other relatives actually go out of their ways to help the drunk drivers get groceries and similar stuff that's harder to do now without a car. In my opinion, if they didn't care enough about other people's lives to find a safer means of transport than drunk driving, why should anyone else care to help them avoid the inconvenience of taking the bus or walking? Like, I realize they all grew up in an extremely traumatic setting, and the drunk drivers of the group are definitely alcoholics. That doesn't excuse anything in my eyes though. I've never said anything against this because not my circus, not my monkeys. Why start anything when it doesn't directly concern me? But it's not a dynamic I want anything to do with. Now for the update. I had to make a new account because something went wrong. I just wanted to write this update because lots happened overnight. My boyfriend's family is allowing me to stay with them for a while because my family is absolutely unhinged. My dad decided to show up to my boyfriend's house and cause a scene. I guess my little tantrum worked because he announced that they're not having the party anymore. He also said my brother hates me now, which I don't really care. He has also been charged, for those who don't know. An argument started and it was basically like the argument that took place before. He kept saying I wasn't happy for my brother, and I said for the millionth time, I was happy that he came out fine in the end, but celebrating it and enabling his behavior isn't okay. It was absolutely embarrassing because this was at my boyfriend's house, in front of his entire family, and they were trying to calm us down. As you guys know, my best friend since we were toddlers passed away at the hands of a drunk driver a day after she turned 19. That messed me up so bad, to the point where I had to go to therapy for some time. And considering that next month will be a year since her passing, this entire situation has hurt me. When I brought this up to my dad, he said, "I'm sorry about that, but if it's almost a year, you should be over it by now." I just told him I'll go back to get my things and leave, because they obviously didn't care about how I felt. I'm back at my boyfriend's house now, and they have been comforting me. Nothing hurt me more than my dad telling me to just get over my friend's death, because I've known her my whole life. Anyway, this is just how things are so far. I blocked my parents and brother and everything. Now that I've calmed down a bit and I have tons of support, I feel a little relieved. June 18th would have been her 20th birthday, and June 19th will be a year since some heartless monster took her life away. So I'm making both days all about her, even though she's not physically here with me. Thanks to everyone for the amazing replies. I sympathize with everyone who has lost a loved one / gotten injured because of idiots who think it's acceptable to drink and drive. I love all of you, and I know my friend is rooting for me from above. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my sister disgusting and banning her, my niece, and my mother from my house? The title absolutely makes me sound like a jerk. I apologize in advance for the novella. Part of this is me venting, but I do want some outside perspective in whether or not I've had too strong of a reaction, especially considering there are kids involved. My husband and I are both 23. My sister is 27 and has 3 kids. My 11-year-old niece, my 7-year-old nephew, and my 1-year-old nephew. My sister broke up with the baby's father and has been struggling some. My mom watches the kids while she works. When the older 2 aren't in school, then my husband and I have been watching them one day every other weekend. My 11-year-old niece is developing some really bad behaviors that we are trying to offset when we have her by teaching her self-regulation, boundaries, and healthy communication. This past weekend was terrible. My niece was on a level 100 all day and had been mouthing off, etc. My husband took her tablet and calmly told her to go sit in our bed for a timeout. I walked away because I needed a breather, but then I heard my husband yelp. He was red in the face and hunched over, and I could immediately tell that she had hit him between his legs. Apparently, badly enough that he went outside and threw up a short time later. Sorry for the gross detail, but it emphasizes why I'm so upset. Things calmed down. When my sister came to get them, I was fixing dinner. The older two were watching a movie, and my husband was holding the baby with an ice pack in his lap. My sister came and I pulled her into the kitchen and told her what happened. I told her that unless my niece's behavior improves, she can't come over, but we could still watch my nephews. Her first response was a snide, she would never do something like that, to which I responded that I had witnessed it. This is where I really got angry. When she couldn't come up with another excuse, she said, "I don't like how he is drawing attention to his private area. That's very inappropriate around kids," referring to the damn ice pack. Before I lost it, I said she was disgusting and that she needed to get her kids' things and leave, which thankfully she did. But then a short time later, our mother calls me fuming, saying I'm being an a-hole and overreacting. I told her that for as long as she keeps that opinion before even hearing our side, then she's not welcomed either. I said we can all have a discussion about boundaries and expectations, but until then, don't contact us, especially to ask for help. I really don't think so, but am I the a-hole? Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole, but your niece's behavior is really alarming, and it will only get worse from here if she doesn't get help. If I were in your situation, I'd ban them until things change. Don't feel like you're overreacting. If your husband is vomiting from the pain, that's a valid reaction, especially if your sister refuses to acknowledge the problem and then gaslight you. Physical attack aside, your niece and sister could land you in trouble with law enforcement or CPS. I honestly would cut them off completely. This right here, her trying to flip around and insinuate that your husband was being inappropriate with the kids, was the start of something. It sounds like the sister comes from a line of manipulative mothers, and her child is the golden child who can't do no wrong. All the while, the kid is actively learning to be manipulative without consequence. And that's difficult to fix, because the first victim of a manipulator is themselves. They think, I am the victim. I can do no wrong. I'm glad Opie seems normal and on their husband's side. You're not even a little bit the a-hole. You're offering free childcare and doing your sister a huge favor. Her kid physically attacks your husband in a really ugly way, and your sister tries to attack you and your husband over it? You should decline to watch any of her children anymore, if this is how she's going to treat you. She's taking advantage of you, and utterly lacks appreciation for your free services. Your mom is also an a-hole, and I can see why your sister had a kid at 16 and is massively entitled. I'd suggest drawing some much stronger boundaries with your family. I agree with this so much. It sounds like the sister gets a lot of help from the family and only has the kids to herself 2 weekends a month, with basically everyone else running to help her. She sounds selfish, like she expects everyone to help her. I hope she stops having kids because she's not acting like a good parent. I would be mortified if my kid did that. I mean, the husband still has a nice pack in hours later, and her response is that it's not appropriate to draw attention to that area? Girl, your daughter already did that because of your terrible parenting. Not a-hole. Update. Thanks everyone for the support. I've gotten a lot to think about, and I'm reassured that I'm not overreacting. A couple things to note. My husband was not in the bedroom with her. He was telling her to go to our room for a timeout, which is what we normally do. He is taking off work to go to urgent care this morning because he is still in a lot of pain. I think my sister's allegation is so that she can trick herself into believing she ended babysitting with us, instead of the other way around. Mom's always been more supportive of her, so the more I think about it, the less I'm surprised by how she immediately took my sister's side. I haven't spoken to either of them and don't plan to. Second update. Good, bad, and ugly. The bad is that urgent care sent hubby to the ER, at which point I left work to go join him. One of his testicles was dislocated, but thankfully it didn't ascend too far. With some pain meds, a doctor was able to push it back into place. I was scared at first, because they said surgery would be an option if this didn't work, but thankfully it did. The good is that we are now home and he's feeling much better, but still kind of bruised. I told him lots of internet strangers were invested in the well-being of his manhood, which made him belly laugh. The ugly is, and I'm standing by him on this, he absolutely does not want to give any medical bills to my sister. His point is that she will likely retaliate even worse than just being confronted with what her daughter did, and I agree. So in that sense, we're stuck. I didn't get the full story before, but essentially, when he told her to give him the tablet, She turned away from him and kicked her leg back. He said it got her heel. She's also not little for her age, and I'm just glad it wasn't worse. Boundaries are set. As much as we love the kids, we're just going to have to get okay with not seeing anyone.